A very good afternoon to one and all present here. It is the need of the hour to understand in depth the National Education Policy 2020, and we, the School of Architecture and Interior Design, SRMIST, in light of the awareness program on NEP 2020, proudly organizes a 3-day panel discussion on various aspects from November 5th to 7th. The initiative is taken under the guidelines of UGC for conducting discussions and webinars to promote NEP 2020 and its transformational reforms in higher education, to create awareness and to identify the positive implications of the same in respective fields of higher education. I, Esther Shereen, Admin Coordinator on behalf of School of SRM Institute of Science and Technology, welcome you to the inaugural session of the Nep Talk Series 2020. Our heartfelt gratitude to our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sandeep Sanchetti, and the panel members, Architect Vijay Garcia and Dr. N. Sridharan. Many thanks to the management of SRM Institute of Science and Technology for their constant support. I thank Dr. P. Satish Kumar, Dean School of Architecture and Interior Design, for constantly guiding us. I welcome all the faculty, students, PhD scholars of the school, and I once again thank you one and all for joining us this afternoon and request the Dean to take the session forward.
Very good afternoon, everybody. It's so nice of you to be here. Thank you so much. Respected Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sandeep Sanchetti, Architect Vijay Garg, panel member, Dr. Sridharan, panel member, moderator, coordinator, students, scholars, faculty members, and other guests. Thank you very much for joining for this fine session, which is very important. The topic is National Education Policy, which is the need of the hour. And to be very precise, we are doing this after 34 years of time, and with the able workmanship of Dr. Kasturi Rangan and his team. And he has made a very good roadmap and has made well proposed and given it for us. And we are taking it forward for the future generations. And of course, the government is seeking opinion, suggestions, and consent from all of us. And here we are to take it up from all these eminent speakers here, and all the three are here in front of us. And I hand over to the moderator, Dr. Neha Bans. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I extend my warm welcome to all the panel members, to distinguished guests, friends, and colleagues. And I take the opportunity to introduce our panel members. Honorable Dr. Sandeep Sanchetti is Vice Chancellor of SRM University, former President of AIU New Delhi, President of Manipal University, Jaipur, Director NIT Delhi and Surathkal, Director in SPA, New Delhi, NIT Trichy, Calicut, Delhi, Mentor Director, NIT Goa, Puducherry and Sikkim. He is also recipient of Commonwealth Scholarship and Fellowship under Colombo Plan. He is a member of several academic, government and non-government agencies in India and abroad. I take an opportunity to welcome you, sir, to the panel discussion on NEP 2020. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Satishi.
Yes, sir. I now take an opportunity to introduce Architect Vijay Garg, which needs no introduction. He has been actively involved in for profession and academics. Just a minute, sir. Yes, sir. Vijay Garg sir has been actively involved in profession and academics at all levels. He is practicing architect and has won national level design competitions. He has founded the firms Vastuki Consultants and Design Consultants. He has also served as advisor to many districts of Rajasthan and is in the profession for last 25 years. Professor Architect Vijay Garg has been acting president of Council of Architecture from 2018 to 19 and has served as vice president of Council of Architecture for the year 2000 from 2016 to 2018. He is council member of Council of Architecture and has been the council member of AICT from year 2016 to 2019. Architect Vijay Garg sir has also been active in Indian Institute of Architects and is credited with various publications and initiatives, both in Northern Chapter and the national level. Sir has also been chairman of Alumni Association of SPA, an institution of national importance under Ministry of HRD. He has also been widely acknowledged as the founder of Profession First, an initiative for the welfare of society through architects and architecture. Professor Vijay Garcia sir lives in New Delhi and Gurgaon and spends his time in practice, teaching and advisory roles. Presently, sir is visit professor at SPA Delhi for past 2 years and is advisor to New Delhi government PWD minister. Welcome, sir. Well, I think sir is disconnected. I'll now introduce Professor N. Sridharan, sir. Professor Dr. N. Sridharan, sir, is currently with School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal, as director. He is chairperson of the Educational Standing Committee of Professional Body of Institute of Town Planners, India. Earlier, he was director of School in Planning and Architecture, Vijayawada, and worked with School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, as director, additional in charge, and professor. He has the rare distinction of being director of all 3 schools of planning and architecture in India. Dr. Sridharan has more than 37 years of experience in field of urban and regional planning. He holds a master's degree in economics, urban and regional planning, town and country planning, Poland, and financial management, in addition to doctoral degree from RMIT Australia in field of urban planning. He has published widely in national and international journals in fields of peri-urban development, urban governance and finance, rural development, and spatial data infrastructure. He was a member of recomposition of the Council of Architecture under late Sri Balla Committee under the Ministry of Education, Government of India. He has been a member of Government of India's committees on Think Tank of Urbanization, Urban Mission, Land Use Standards for Rural Areas, Rural Area Plan Formulation and Implementation, Land Use Revitalization, and a review committee member of Town Planning Education, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. He is assisted in developing new schools of planning in India, which are being developed by Government of India, At the state level, Dr. Sridharan has been associated in setting up of new urban institution in the state of Madhya Pradesh recently, and in helping to set up the new state capital in the state of Andhra Pradesh along with the institutions in recent past. His recent work includes as the leader of team in developing the first regional plan based on land use plan for the state of Tamil Nadu and Odisha in India, which was in association with GIZ Germany. He is the leader of GIS-based master plan in state capital of Manipur. He has been associated with a lot of European Union-based projects for many years and bilateral projects in India. His area of interest primarily includes history of architecture in Deccan, textile cities of the past, port cities, corridor development and urbanization. He has been nominated and appointed in various central and state university committees. I welcome you, sir, Dr. Sridharan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. I now request Dr. Sanchetti, sir, to please new educational policy 2020.
Fine. Thank you, Neha. And thank you, Professor Satish. I take this opportunity to welcome you all, especially my good friends, Professor Vijay Garg and Professor Sridharan, with both of whom I had a chance to work when I was part of SPA. And of course, later professionally also, we have remained in contact and have contributed to the education space in some direct ways. I also welcome all my distinguished colleagues from SRM and other institutions, and most importantly, all delegates and participants who are part of this particular webinar. I'm very, very happy to join you today. If I may seek clarification, Professor Satish, I can take around 15 minutes right now to make my presentation. Sir. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Friends, this is a very happy occasion that we are talking about what we call the new education policy. And in the new education policy talk series, this is the first version which we are starting today. Of course, this will be happening for next 2-3 days also, as I'm told. And you will get to learn a lot about what new education policy is, because this is an work which probably spanned 2.5 years directly by the Kasturi Ranganji's committee. But more than that, there was a Hari Gautam committee, there was a TSR Subramaniam committee, there was a Yashpal committee. There were 5 committees probably, in my opinion, in last 10 to 15 years. And all that, what they had done resulted in or culminated into this kind of a policy. Even this policy was very exhaustive when it came into being in terms of what it was a document. It was around 400-500 pages. Once in 2019, July, August, we deliberated upon that. Finally, I'm very happy that the policy has come out in a very, very crisp form. And this is now a very limited set of document in terms of 64 pages, both the school and the higher education component put together. I'll refrain from talking from the school point of view because I'm not an expert there and I hardly know there. My comments will be probably not be valid for the school education, but higher education, yes, we have contributed through AIU, through our own, through various other committees and platforms, direct interactions with the Kasturi Rangan committee. And therefore, I would say that this is a very valued document, very consultative process was there in this. And as a result, its acceptance is far, far higher than what I was initially anticipating. The only fear I had probably was once around 2 lakh plus inputs were given by people in different capacities, once the document was made public, I was worried that this will be getting lost in the sea of feedback which we are getting. But I think hats off to the committee for doing a very, very good job. So I'm happy that our School of Architecture is trying to deliberate on this important issue, because a new education policy or national education policy, we are using these terms exchangeably, are same, are important because today no subject or no specialization is confined to itself. The dimensions have broadened, the horizons have changed, and therefore architecture is also as impacted by materials and structural designs and maybe environment and acoustics and maybe whatever it may be. I need not tell. And therefore, the cross-fertilization of ideas and disciplines and all these things are very important. And therefore, knowing what engineering might do, or knowing what social science might do, or knowing what psychology of people would be important for architects, as would be important for any other person from other domain also. And that might be the one reason you find that even the notion of councils have been changed, whether it is AICT or UGC or COA, the notions have been changed to some extent by amalgamating certain things. That is to promote the cross-fertilization of ideas and disciplines. That is the take, I would say. So in general, but if I start in a slightly proper manner, I'll probably take 10-12 minutes now to close this particular thing for the benefit of all those who are attending. What were the key needs for change? Was this change needed 20 years back, or is it late by 15 years, or was it, would it survive next 15, 20 years? I think all these questions are very important in context of any policy. So the fundamental requirements for this particular policy, in my opinion, were the these were the reasons. Number one, our education was highly fragmented earlier, and now we are trying to restitch as a single piece, or maybe a continuous piece, if not a single piece. Similarly, the rigid separation of disciplines probably mean nothing, as I was trying to explain. So even that was the reason why new education policy was required. We had issues with the access. Various reasons were there. Access is not only that physically you construct the institution and access will be provided. Access is also by technology. Access is also by openness of online, distance, virtual, physical, flexible, all those kind of modes which are there. And therefore the limited access was there. Now the access will not be limited. Teacher were limited, and there was a limited autonomy which was given to the institution. That was another dire need for new education policy to come. We had not much focus on the research. Some of the old acts and statutes, if you read, by which the institutions were created, you will find the research was not getting mentioned in their domain of work or workspace. Now it's all going to change. Everyone has to do research, and research can go even at the lower level. I think that is a requirement of the day. So this was another need which drove it. Of course, suboptimal governance and leadership was another reason why we needed changes, and therefore this new concept of what we call autonomy, etc., will come into picture. Ineffective regulatory system. It was ineffective because I know of one or two bodies of which I was member, maybe more, that they used to clash with each other. They never worked with synergy in the nation's interest, and that was the reason why the regulatory system, particularly the big example is of DAC, Distance Education Council, which did not succeed in its endeavor in terms of quality and the presence and the value. And therefore, regulatory system change requirement was there. And another biggest bane we had in our system was the large affiliation system which was there. Large affiliation system means that some of the big universities only were examination conducting and degree awarding kind of a thing, but they were not doing much academically. They were not so vibrant, and their sizes became so big that they were very difficult to move in terms of changes. They were like big elephants in terms of size, and therefore their movement flexibility or the speed was pretty low. So these were the key reasons why new education policy was needed. So fine, we accept that. These are, by the way, the ones which are recorded in the policy itself, not my own creation. Policy itself in its document says that why we wrote a policy. When we come to the policy itself, that what is new which has been said, I would say that this policy is full of dreams. This policy is full of big things which it is envisaging. This policy is a reformist policy with the potential to transform, is what I'd like to say, that it can transform us. This afternoon only, I was having discussions with some Australian people, and they were very, very receptive, and they were very happy that this policy is there. Some of us have given us feedback that many neighboring countries or other countries are trying to borrow this policy, saying that this policy will help us because this covers most of the important aspects which are required for something to take forward. And therefore, you can say that this is a policy with dreams. This is a policy which is in pursuit of excellence in higher education or education in general, because it's also covering the school part in terms of whatever 3 + 5, 4, everything, all that has been redefined, and there is a seamless connectivity which is there. Another thing is what we can say is this policy is big and dreamy because number one, it tends to say that 10,000 institutions in next 15 years should become degree awarding institution. Remember that in last 73 years, we have only made something like 800 institutions to award degree right now, or maybe 900, whatever that may be, because the number of universities are around 1,000, and some of them are very young, so they might not have awarded degrees. In last 2 years, we have added around 150 to 200 universities, so they might not have awarded. So 70 years, we have done only 800, 900 universities, and all of a sudden, we want 10,000 to be done in next 15 years. And therefore, the target is big, dream is big. The second thing, gross enrollment ratio. I'm sure by now, all Indians, particularly in higher education, know what it is. It is the translation of school-going students into the college-going student. And that percentage, once again, in last 73 years, has been around 26.3% as quoted in the policy. But I don't think so that was a very good number to boast of, because most of the modern, developed, advanced countries were having more than 50, 60, 70, 80, 90%, and we were hovering only on 26%. So our government has also set up a target of 50%. But remember, you have achieved 26% in 73 years, and in next 15 years, you want to achieve another 23, 24%. So it's going to be a big challenge. So in that sense, you can say it's a big dream. Another thing I will say that the third part where it is slightly dreamy is the 6% of the budget or the GDP will be allocated as a higher education budget. Right now, we are hovering around 2 or 3 or 1.5 or not more than 3 typically. And we find a lot of budgets gets lapsed at least in the government institutions somehow we come to know. And therefore, our capacity to absorb that kind of a money in effective terms. I'm not saying in actual terms that you have invested money, you can buy and make buildings, buy equipment is not necessarily the effective term. In effective terms, if you have to use that 6% of GDP, and by the way, GDP is constantly growing. By the time what you would like to reach in 15 years for this also, we might be 5 trillion economy as has been said and probably projected also. And therefore, the money will become very, very big in terms of 6%. And do we have capacity to use that? We don't know. But these are dreamy things. And why shouldn't policy dream? When I'm dreaming, when I'm conceiving, when I'm planning, why shouldn't I plan big if it can succeed and if I can work for that? I think that was the endeavor of the committee. I like this endeavor. I like this kind of a freedom which they possibly enjoyed in terms of this. So all in all, policy is something what we can call light but tight in terms of regulatory things. Policy is also something which is a seamless continuity between KG to PG. Everything at the highest level, everything at the lowest level, which were all discrete and not connected in earlier times have been connected now. And ultimately, I'll say that all policies thrive when it affects the people at large. Now, what will affect people at large? The earlier 4 pillars or 6 pillars of the policy, if you can call them, probably were something like access, equity, accountability, transparency, quality, etc. These were the pillars. Some of them were added later, some of them were removed or moved or whatever it may be. Access, equity, quality, accountability, transparency, and these were typically the features in the government. In private, there were slight challenges because they were new in the business of higher education and they were in the growing mode also. So growing mode is always a challenge. Every day there's a new situation. And therefore, 3 more new pillars will have to be added to the policy. And I hope through your effort, through our understanding, we will bring those 3 pillars to make our policy very, very effective and vibrant. And those 3 pillars, my dear friends, for me are, we have to do everything with speed. We cannot be slow. What we have done in 70 years cannot be repeated again in 70 years. It has to be possibly done in 17 years now. Similarly, efficiency. We have never bothered in our functioning in terms of efficiency. What is the return on investment on my money? How much efficiently I'm utilizing all my resources? I create high-tech labs, but I find that lab is used 4 hours in a week for a given set of students, and rest of the time, 24/7, it's closed. I think it's a very, very poor, inefficient utilization of the resource. So efficiency has to come in. Whether SPA or SRM shares a resource, doesn't matter. We should do it. Because it's in the nation's interest, efficiency should be higher. The third thing is the diversity. Gone are the days when the diverse things were not looked at with positivity. All IITs are adding newer dimensions. All universities are adding newer dimensions. SRM has added law and agriculture and lots of things in the medicine domain to make sure that we remain diverse and diversity. So 3 new pillars in addition to 5, I have already told you. Speed, efficiency, and diversity would be something very important for the NEP. Now, let me give you some more general comments on the NEP side. Number 1, this NEP I'll classify under the inverted commas as student-centric education policy. Till now, none of the policies were student-centric. They were regulatory-centric, what UGC will say will do, or they were institution-centric or vice-chancellor-centric. Vice-chancellor presides over the meetings and says something and that happens. I think this was all wrong. Now it is going to be student-centric. The real stakeholder will be real beneficiary. Now it is going to be multidisciplinary education. Now it's going to be time under the control of the student. Many of you probably saw 3-year programs going to 4-year program in Delhi University some time back, and some resentment happened. I personally liked it. Fortunately, this policy has now seconded that particular framework that 3-year can be 4-year, and that can be called as a slightly research-based or industry-based degree. And this happens in the advanced world, that 3-year can become 4-year. But let me also tell you, there is a much bigger positivity and message which you have not understood. Engineering traditionally is 4 years in India. No one can give you an engineering degree in less than 4 years. Even if I know everything and I have cleared everything, I will not be given a degree. That won't be the case under the new flexibility, under the new schemes. Once they come into the picture and they are kind of pronounced, you will find that someone can go on fast track. That 4-year degree can also go to 3 years. That will be a wonderful thing to happen in terms of the new education policy. Acceptability of online or distance education or virtual education or face-to-face education or skill education or vocational education, all will be clubbed. No one would be segregated from one to another, that you are coming from vocational stream or skill stream or this stream or that stream. No. If a course has been done, the same value will be attached to this, and rest will be left to the student to prove his or her prowess of that particular thing. And that is what this policy is going to say. We are also going to create a new, what we call National Education Technology Framework, NETF, which was never there. By the way, education was averse to technology generally. Everyone liked blackboard or whiteboard and classroom and connect with teacher and doing things on sheets and whatever places, but not necessarily anymore. Sheet can be an electronic sheet also. And therefore, this technology framework is going to be very important, because one thing we know in our life, once a technology has come into our life in some way, in whatever part, it has become a permanent part. Number two, it has always tendency to facilitate our work. Number three, it brings down the cost also. And number four, which will be important for education, that education was never 24/7. It will make the education 24/7. Remember, today you will not have a kitchen without pressure cookers and gas and ovens and all that. You would not have a life without mobile and automobile. Same way, tomorrow you will not have an education without technology. That is my guess. I'm not forcing. One can always choose what they want because of student centricity, but technology will play an important role. And I don't have to prove it. COVID is proving it, that we have to meet through technology only. Physical mode of meeting is becoming more restrictive and probably not needed also. So it saves a lot of cost. It saves a lot of time. It makes everything on record available to you. What Sandeep Sancheti is saying now to you would be available to you any number of times you would like to listen. And therefore, technology has its own power. That's a beautiful thing they are trying to do. And in doing so, they are pushing for things, even things like virtual laboratories. You never thought laboratories will be virtual, but laboratories will become like that. But you will do the experiment on real tools and equipment, but you will control them remotely, electronically, as we do sometimes in many, many cases. And now IoT culture is coming, so that will happen more easily. And therefore, technology is a big thing which NEP is promoting. Another big thing for me is the already established NTA, but with the help of NTA, single entry examination. Okay, what happens right now? I have to branch out if I want to do JEE or maybe NATA or CLAT or something else. I have to branch out of almost at 9th standard. When I'm immature, when I don't know what I have to do, my parents will push me in that coaching, this coaching, and then I keep trying for that irrespective of my interest there or not. Now with single entry examination, you will graduate, you will showcase your prowess, and then on that basis, whatever is available to you, you will choose. You don't have to choose in the 9th standard or a very early standard. And a lot of people get confused right in the 11th standard when they do further bifurcation within the science. Do I go towards medical or engineering and so on? So all those challenges will go off. And the single entrance examination possibly will be given multiple times in a year. So even if in my one attempt, I'm not doing well because of my health and something else in my life, I'll possibly be able to attempt next time better. So this method is going to change. Then of course, there are many, many important things on accreditation, on teachers training, which is generally lacking in higher education space. And also one of the important point right now, in my opinion, is the internationalization. I'm told, I'm not sure, around 4 to 5 lakh Indian students used to go abroad every time. The amount of money they would give to the institutions outside India would be multifold or much more than the Indian budget itself for the higher education, which will not be the case because India is now going to serve their needs. They will find a lot of good avenues. They will stick with us. Our quality will go up. Our finances will go up. Our competition will go up. Our institution numbers will go up. And internationalization will become better because other students from outside will also tend to come to India to make sure that India is doing, because India is doing well. And same way, Indian institutions will also create campuses somewhere outside India, like outsiders will come to India. India will also go to outside. Some of the other things which I can possibly say in terms of further improvement is the HESI, the Higher Education Commission of India, which will be the key governing council body under which 4 more bodies will come. I need not go into the description of that, which is generally not required, but hopefully HESI will be able to control whatever the amalgamation or the unity required between various disciplines and all that. So there will be a new regulatory structure which will do very well. To some extent, government and non-government institutions will be treated at par. Particularly, I'm expecting at the research level. And if that happens, that will be something very, very good for us to happen. And one more big thing, in my opinion, which can happen would be the scholarships to the students. And the scholarship to the students will also be a very big boon for the people from the rural background or not so capable people. And therefore, you can say that all in all, this will be the change. In short, in everything nutshell, you can possibly call the whole thing to be a flexible education policy. The education itself has to be flexible and the policy has to be doubly flexible to make it possible. So that is how the policy would be, in my opinion. I already told you about the technology, but I'll just give you an example of the technology that in future, technology will play such a role that you will get a foldable screen, LCD screen, which will be your book, which will be your rough book, which will be your reference book, which will be your journal, which will be your notepad, which will have a pencil, which you can just scribble, which will, if you speak and record things, everything will be a single thing, no bags required, nothing, and that will be a 24/7 resource. Those kind of technologies will be available to you to support your education. And imagine AI following you or supporting you and telling Sandeep Sancheti, you are not good in this subject, or this subject is tough for you, or you need to do this exercise more because you have constantly been doing poorly. All these put together, embedded in that foldable screen called LCD screen, probably will be your power. It will be Wi-Fi connected, fully enabled with various connectivities and sensors. And that is how the technology is going to play a big role. So friends, there are many things which are there, but multiple entry, multiple exit will be the another big boon. And with that, I'd like to close my address because I don't want to take more time. There is a scheme called ABC. I hope some of you have heard about it, Academic Bank of Credit. It was 2 years back christened by UGC people as National Academic Credit Bank. And I was fortunate to work on this particular scheme. And even today I'm working. We have drafted the regulations for that particular thing. And it is now re-christened as ABC, Academic Bank of Credit. And that Academic Bank of Credit allows you to spread your study. Let's say an architecture course, instead of 5 years, can be in 10 years also. Instead of being from SPA only, it can be being from SPA and SRM and maybe one university outside India also. It can be between 3, 5, and 10. It can be that in some parts for 1-2 years you do something and you get a certification. After that you get a diploma. After that you get a degree. After that you get a postgraduate diploma. After that you get a postgraduate degree, and so on and so forth. So there will be a continuous journey. You will be enticed to study more to get higher thing, but if there is a need, you can withdraw and do something. That is the meaning of the multiple entry, multiple exit, which is there under the ABC scheme. But ABC is the one which is going to give you all kinds of freedom, what we call anywhere, anytime, any mode, any language, any speed. It will have many, many any's. That is what I can say about this particular policy of ABC, which is going to be the mainstay of the NEP 2020. And therefore, it will bring what we call student centricity. It will remove the teacher centricity, department centricity, institute centricity. Right now, what happens? If I come to SRM, I tell someone comes to SRM, I tell him, this is the course. If you want to study, enroll, we'll give you a degree after you complete it. But tomorrow a student will come and tell me that this is what I'm going to do from here, and this is what I'm going to do from IIT and SPA, and this is how I'm going to make my degree. You may give me a degree if you like. If you don't give me, I'll take it from other place. And that is the power of this particular thing. And therefore, you'll find these changes will happen. Changes will also happen in conventional exams. Right now, you're giving examinations as a routine examinations where confidentiality is the biggest thing. Now it will be the openness. Earlier, you are covering the courses, you will be uncovering the courses. Right now, you are making courses, teachers around courses. Now it will be courses around teachers. These kind of changes will also come. And finally, when I was talking of examination, there will be a possibility under this new framework that examinations can be group examinations. I'm saying for theory also, not for practice. I'm also saying examinations can be on demand also. I'm also saying that examinations will not be sitting in examinations, but standing in examinations. I'm also saying that examinations will not be writing examinations. Examinations would be speaking examinations. And all in all, there'll be many changes in teaching, learning, and all these kind of things which are there in terms of overall policy framework. You will all become a lifelong learner with the NEP 2020. It will facilitate that, and it will make sure that there are no barriers. Whatever you can dream of will be the thing which will be available. And finally, there'll be a new thing which might come. Don't mark my words, but don't catch me if it doesn't come. And that is, if you make a very curious mix of specializations of science, arts, humanities, architecture, medical, and you don't fix your specialization while you're taking the courses to get the degree, you might get a new degree called Bachelor of Liberal Education, where any combination on the earth in terms of subjects chosen can facilitate your degree is the expectation which we have. But if I take more engineering centric, I'll get engineering degree. I take more architectural centric, I'll get architecture degree, but otherwise I can get the liberal education degree. So these are some of the new avenues, these are some of the new prospects, and these are some of the new excitements which NEP is going to deliver, in my opinion, my dear friends. So I hope I've been able to tell you what is right with it. When we implement it, there'll be lots of challenges, but life is full of challenges. We should be ready for that. And people like Professor Garg, Professor Sridhar, and myself should be duty bound to solve those challenges and make sure that our students enjoy their teaching, learning, and also be benefited by the NEP 2020. With this, I'd like to close. Thank you so much for your patience in listening to me and also for this opportunity. I'll be available to you for rest of the sessions, especially when Professor Garg and Professor Sridharan are talking. So thank you. And I pass it on back to you, Dr. Neha.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us a valuable insight into the national education policy and its positive implications and its vision on a larger goal, how it would be implementing or how the implementation would be on a very positive note, and what possible benefits, the great benefits which have been anticipated with the framing of this policy have been highlighted by you. Thank you so much, sir. I now request Architect Vijay Garcia, sir, to kindly give his view on the implication of NEP policy in architecture. How is it affecting architecture education and profession? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Neha. And thank you, SRM, for giving me the opportunity to talk about the most sought after topic and the awareness required to be about NEP, in particularly in architecture. And I'm very happy to share today this panel discussion with my former two directors, Dr. Sancheti and Dr. Sridharan. I had very nice experience of working with both of them. And I am very enlightened about to know that whatever Dr. Sancheti has said about the various facets of the new education policy. But when we talk about new education policy in general, we see that there are a lot of new possibilities, and when there are new possibilities, there are new challenges also. So, and we need to look at those challenges in a little more positive manner and how we can do it. And this policy has come at a time, particularly in architecture, that we never imagined that we can teach from a distance, we can virtually talk and teach, and we can have digital courses. We never imagined. In fact, whenever we discussed this kind of a thing before pandemic, we never agreed that this is possible. But this is a new experience which has added, and I think, and onto that, this policy coming and envisaging that a lot of things can happen. So with this experience of last 6 to 8 months, we've realized that even though things may or may not be possible digitally, but we have to make it work. And we have to make it work in a manner so that it is acceptable to students and faculty in equal manner and loved by all. And there are positive aspects and negative aspects of both in engineering and architecture, particularly in architecture. When we talk about that, we need to feel the material, we need to feel the space. So that is sometimes very difficult to do it virtually, because you do simulations, you do many things, but unless you feel material, you can touch material, you will not be able to understand. So, but anyway, after this experience of 6 to 8 months, we have realized that at least we can identify that certain courses can definitely be handled digitally, which was earlier we thought not. And with the multiple entry and exit, which sir has explained, is a very unique thing which was required and which was desperately felt, particularly in a long course, which is 5-year old, 5-year long course in architecture, that people at certain time when they join and they certainly realize after 2 years that they are not fit here. Where do they go? They feel like wasting many years. And this has been my experience in the last 15 to 20 years of teaching, and that a lot of people, a lot of students who are actually not fit to the profession, they join somehow, and after some time they realize that they are stuck, and sometimes they have to miserably, or they've been forcibly asked to pass or take a degree and be in the profession. Sometimes they quit in between and waste the resource of parents and their own time, and which is a big national waste. And I think from that point of view, if we look at it, it is a very positive move, and it will be helping not mainly students. It will give a lot of new avenues. And if we can do a lot of innovations in the education space, which Dr. Sancheti has been talking about a lot at various forums, that innovation means that when we are doing, particularly with, I'm talking only with respect to architecture, I'm not venturing out into engineering and any other thing, that there was a organization, we were talking of the technologies in architecture. Then there are professionals who can assist architects to perform their architect's job, but they can do only one segment, 2 segments. And we don't have that kind of professionals available in the country. We have only people, either they are full-fledged engineers or they are only skilled laborers. So we have that middle cadre is missing. So if we can just somehow create a multiple courses, like if we are saying the multiple entry and exit, so we have to design so many courses so that if you do so many courses with so many credits of particular type, and you have to identify those 8 and 10 different segments within the architecture course, so that if you do 1 course or 2 course, you can do that kind of a assistance in the profession. And if you do multiple of these 5 sets or 6 sets together, then you can be called as a professional, or you can be registered as an architect to practice architecture. So which is presently not even thought of. So in that case, so what we are testing, that who can join architecture, who can practice architecture, was normally restrained to people who only passing out architecture. So then we can say, okay, if you people can do out of these 20 courses which are designed, and if this particular kind of combinations, you can do 1 combination, 2 combination, or 3 combination of courses, and then you can appear to some exit test, and then you can be registered as an architect to practice architecture. I think there's a lot of innovation in terms of framing of courses and framing of credits at the level of the Council of Architecture is required, which has never been thought of earlier. and that now we are saying that we will have the aptitude to enter in the architecture education, that if you have passed only NATA, then you will. So sir talked about NTA taking one single examination. So when you take single examination for all kind of design courses and you join, and you can join any course, and then maybe you decide after 1 year, no, you are not fit to design course, you will go to technology, or you go to some other creative course, or maybe a simple computer education or something like that. So you have that option, and so that modulation of courses in terms of to be divided in segments which are 6 months multiples. So if you can do multiples, because I had come across that because when my son went to US, sir would remember that I took his consultation, and when he went abroad, he decided, okay, I'll do this course. When he went there, he decided, no, I don't want to do this course. I will take this course and I will do something different. And then he did two different courses from some other university and completed his degree. And then he found that it was more useful than the pre-designed courses which we offer, because sometimes when the students study and he realizes, okay, he's not good in this and he may be performing and better in the other category or other course. So he can take other course, and that course offers that student much better opportunities in future and more respect the aptitude of the student. So I'm sure from that point of view, this policy is very innovative, and I'm sure we all can make it work. And definitely it requires very large amount of hard work in terms of framing of credits, courses, and when we talk about multiple entry exit, and then when we are also simultaneously talking of autonomy. So in my experience of working with the regulatory authority is that the people in India, particularly in private sector and even to some extent in some government institutions also, not very sensitive towards what is education is. They are only bothered about that they have the authority to give degree, they will give degree and take money. What they teach, what the student gets is not important. So I think that is need to be treaded very cautiously. How do you give the people the space, what they will perform and how they will perform in terms of self-regulation. Not only self-regulation, the kind of courses we do, that courses need to be designed in a manner that they can be self-tested by the student, and they can question the people, the teachers, and particularly in India, I don't find many students have a habit of questioning the teacher or the institution, what are being taught. Even forget about, because I come from an institution which is get cream of the country, and there also the students are so scared to sometimes ask the faculty, but these days students are started asking questions, and even the faculty is afraid of the student because the students are the best in the country. So but that is not the case everywhere. So we need to educate from the lower level. At the same time, we need to sensitize our teachers and the administration to what education is and how important is that, because the students need to be cultivated that habit of what they are looking for, what they need to be looking at. And when we are talking of architecture as a course which can give them self-employment, it is already a multidisciplinary course. It is good that we are talking of multidisciplinary institutions, and we are talking about the contribution because a building or a space need to be created with the input of not only a person who can conceive the space, but the people who actually help and make it deliver and to make it work. So this is equally important of a civil engineer or electronics engineer, because today IT has come in a big way. When we were talking about AI, role of AI has become so important, because today even when we design house, we can test, okay, this will respond like this, what kind of lighting would come, how much energy would be consumed. So that simulation has not only is not that part of the creation, because it is a method which is 2+2 basic engineering, and which can be tested engineeringly. So there's no rocket science required, because once this is proved, when this is a set phenomena. So it is set, any engineer can test, and there are software, there will be softwares available there. The machines would be available which will tell us, okay, this is good, this is not good for us, besides the aesthetic feel or whatever the architects do. So there's a big challenge, big need to change even for the architects what they think of what they can do, because they can do much more with the help of lot of input of technology. When we talk of the technology coming in, and when we talk of the people who can practice the profession, because this is the only profession which has now as per the act regulated, and who are controlling the number who can practice. So for that purpose we need to actually identify and modulate what kind of people, what kind of technical background they would be required. And the people need to be, actually architects need to be a little more sensitive towards the related professionals. And when we talk about the Council of Architecture, not only looking at the ultimate coming in architect, but they have to look at the ultimate goal, when the 10-step course which is leading to becoming an architect. In between, we are forming the people who can assist the architects at different levels. If somebody exits as a 5th level or 6th level, they are some value to the profession, some value to the society, and they can also earn their own bread and butter and support the society and support themselves. And education, as you said, sir, is 24/7. I think it has to be a culture which is that every day we are learning. And the people like Dr. Sancheti, who's saying that because they lived a life which is 24/7 only education. So that cultivation of habit has to be generated from the courses we design. So I think from that point of view, it is more important that what more responsibility on the people who design those credits and ingredients of those credits. So the ultimate, you create a combination by every module gives you some ability to perform in society, or vocational, or a skill which can actually enhance your personal performance in terms of earning. I will stop here, because if I start speaking like this, I can keep on going. The time is limited. I'm sure the architecture need to be looked at a different perspective in this time, in the wake of the policy. I think this policy has given us a new hope and a new thought that the architects and the Council of Architecture has to look at, that how we can modulate this profession and integrate so many other professionals as part of our journey to become an architect. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Over to you, Neha, sir.
Thank you so much for your valuable input from the architecture education point of view. And as you have very rightly pointed out, that there are certain opportunities along with challenges. So probably you being a person who has worked at the Council of Architecture level would be working out on some parameters to take up those challenges on a positive note. Thank you so much, sir. I now invite Dr. Sridharan sir to kindly give his insight on the NEP policy and its implications to all the other allied fields. Like we have also the planning, which is one of the most important fields associated with architecture. So how the NEP policy has affected that in a positive or in a negative way, both the ways. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. First, let me thank Dr. Sancheti, who has given a very good introduction to the whole, in a very brief way, about the NEP 2020, and also Mr. Vijay Garg has talked about from the dimension of architecture as such. Now, I'll be talking about 4 issues, very specific issues, which are related to architecture as well as planning. Okay. The first and foremost is in terms of NEP 2020, we started about the spatial aspect, linguistic aspect, which I have brought in. Okay. Now, it's a good challenge for us to come out that how to reach to those areas where we do not have even architecture or planning. That's a big challenge. I mean, when we went into the planning aspect, even in a place like Mumbai, which is the biggest urban agglomeration, okay, there itself we don't have planning education, though they have a lot of architecture as such. Okay, and similarly, how to reach those people who do not have access to, let's say, English, how to bring it in terms of the linguistic, which is a major challenge for us from the NEP which comes into us. One. The second aspect is in terms of accept the human being as they are. That is something what Dr. Sancheti also discussed about it before. How do you bring it, encourage them in terms of creative aspect and the different aspect of it? That's the thing which we talk about. See, the knowledge as such in terms of architecture or design or planning is something we have called knowledge dimensions, which are the factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, and procedural knowledge, and as well as metacognitive knowledge. Okay. Now, what is something interesting about the NEP 2020? For the first time, they talked about the creation. Creation is something what talked about the knowledge of all these aspects. Okay, what kind of creativity comes in? Combinity of the combine of these things comes in, how the planning comes in, how the compose of the whole thing comes in, and then finally achieve that in terms of actualizing it. And this is the thing which is more important for the architect themselves, because we came out with the previous one which is called as the old Bloom Taxonomy. From the old Bloom Taxonomy, now we are going into new Bloom Taxonomy, which where the center of this is in terms of creation. The creative, how creative it is, that is to do with the design and architecture as well as planning. So from remembering to understanding to applying to analyzing, evaluating, going into creating in the previously, now we are going into the creation as the main thing. So integrating the tacit knowledge, which is there into, let's say, in architecture, and also in terms of scientific knowledge, which is also the combination of tacit and what you call scientific knowledge. That's a big challenge for us in the new education policy as such. Now, the next dimension for this whole thing, which I want to discuss about, is the most important thing. Let's say when we go into, especially with the Council of Architecture or ITPI, whichever comes in, the first thing is to come out with the demand and supply for this, which we have not done much work. How much is the assessment in terms of demand and supply? We go back only to 2008 or 2005, that time period. Because after 2008, what has happened? There was a decline in terms of the construction industry itself. We have not challenged that, but at the same time, we have increased almost like 484 institutions to generate with architecture or planning. Okay, that is another thing which has come in. Now, what is the implications of that? One, we are talking about the regulation, we are talking about the quality, we are talking about the speed in which it has to come. Now, the first and foremost is in terms of the how to bring in this kind of a assessment in terms of demand and supply. That is something which needs to be done first, okay, to come out with the real term. The second part is because of this sudden increase, the speed which has occurred in architecture as well as in planning, is that the real time salary has decreased and the quality also decreased. Okay. Now, though we have our regulators and other people come in, but because of the speed in which it has come, the quality has also reduced drastically. We all know that, as please in the field of teaching. I'm not be knowing about the actual way, but in terms of teaching, yes, definitely the quality has suffered. Now, how to bring about? Now, even in amongst us also, there are places like institutions like chartered institution, chartered accountants. Okay, they remember, okay, maximum we can allow only 2% every year. If we increase more than 2% or 5%, then it will there'll be a glut in the total this thing chartered accountant, and the prices will go down. It's simple logic stick, but we don't go into that. The second discipline associated with this in terms of when you open up in terms of different disciplines, as rightly pointed out by Mr. Vijay Garcia, how do you open out the regulation? That is something very important. Who should be the coming in? Who should be the exiting? Okay, that's a big challenge for us from the point of view of the profession itself. Okay, that is something which we need to find out about. The third aspect which we want to talk about, which is more important to us as a teacher, okay, even to this date, I want to talk about teaching pedagogy. Now, what has happened now in the field of architecture, in the field of planning, in the field of design, the first and foremost is, unlike in the case of education itself, where we require a B.Ed and M.Ed and doctorate in B.Ed, all the thing, we don't have that system here. So what we do, okay, one person has done his bachelor's in architecture or master's in architecture or PhD in architecture, immediately comes into teaching itself before doing any kind of practice. Okay, in the profession of architecture as well as in the plenary, they have to do some kind of a professional degree. First profession, no, apart from degree, they had to do something in the field also, which they don't do it. They just come in because their job is now plenty of job. That is a glut in the market, so everybody wants to come into teaching. Okay, that is something which is a big challenge. Before going into that, they had to go for this first professional kind of working, and then second in terms of B.Ed and M.Ed kind of a thing, which we can think of how to bring out these changes in our professional life. Then second thing is in terms of a big challenge to us, like rightly pointed out by Dr. Sancheti. Now we have to think about the allied discipline whom we can help to develop our own profession or in our own discipline. Say, for example, you design certain architectural building. Now, finally, the building is done by a mason, by a carpenter, by an electrician. We don't even teach them how to do this particular thing, and we are not there personally to do all this job. When we do that, what can for the end of the day, if you go to, I'm sorry to say that, even if you go to a biggest institution like SPA, okay, you see that lighting is done by in a different direction. Okay, there is no even serial, okay, which cannot come direct way. So how to educate the masons, carpenters, electricians is a real challenge to architectural institution to bring this, and also along with COA how they can support this. That is the biggest challenge. Instead of going and teaching the, let's say, the teachers here or the architectural disciplines or the institutions, it's better to go there to tell them with ITI. Okay, tell them mason, carpenter, what kind of things which you talk about, which you use that, let's say, bricks, what kind of things you will use. If you use concrete, how will you use this? So it's better to teach those people in ITI and tell them as this one. That is one. Second, even in terms of internship, instead of going to any professional, let's say, architectural institution, let them go to that thing, how to hold that, how to use even that masonry or carpentry or electrician. That will be a very good link to them for a challenge. Okay, I think COA should also accept this to bring in those people to come in. Can we support this with this end and come out with a blend of a program of courses with them? That is a big challenge for us from the NEP. Next, it's already discussed about digital education technologies in pedagogy. Fortunately, for the past, thanks to COVID, we have been going into this system. What kind of blending can we come out in terms of knowledge economy? In the knowledge economy and communication technology, how to capture the crowd? That's something very, very important. How do you publicize whatever the department comes in terms through a media, through some other thing, where the knowledge about your own discipline comes into the outsiders? Okay, that is something very, very challenging for us. Okay, which we are not done. We have been doing all the studios. Okay, after the studio is there is a jury, and the jury is done, and then close up, and maybe some of the teachers also take over the what you call the drawings, and then finally end of it. How to educate others? Okay, say some +2 students, tell them what is this about architecture, what is about planning, how to take it at that level. It's the biggest challenge to disseminate the information which comes in. Okay, next part which is important is something which is related to what the NEP also talked about, Diksha. How to come out in terms of Diksha platform for architecture, how to design it in terms of interior design, art and architecture, heritage, how to link it. That's the biggest challenge for us. Now we tried that, and say even in our our own institutions, we tried to do that through some northeast states. We try to do in terms of technology like bamboo and other thing, agriculture, sustainability. How to bring in this in the architecture is a big challenge. That gives us to other disciplines. That is the next one. Question is in terms of transdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. How do you bring in this transdisciplinary and disciplinary? We did discuss previous speakers, they did discuss about it, but I'm talking about the blending disciplines. This is a very important issue from related to architecture. Suppose, let's say we have a PhD who is coming in here. Actually, they are doing, one of the guy from Chennai is doing a work on music and architecture. How to bring in these two together in terms of heritage. Okay, so that kind of thing, how do you bring the music with design, language with design? How do you bring this kind of thing in architecture is the biggest challenge for us. Because again, I'm so happy to talk about another dimension of it. Say at the master's level, we try to blend it in SPA Bhopal. We tried this semester onwards in conservation as well as in landscape architecture. In conservation, we bring anthropology, history, structural engineering, musicologies. Okay, all these disciplines are now brought in at the master's level in conservation. In landscape, we brought in biotechnology and botany, zoology and biology, all those aspects in the landscape architecture. Now, when we can it come it down to the bachelor's level, or can we come it to the master's level or PhD level? That's the biggest challenge for us. When you open it up, how do you accommodate them? That is something important. The most important challenge for us is in terms of design related to technology. One is about the digital technology, that is a different issue. But here, in terms of the latest technology, if you go to, let's say, China, the entire construction is done within 3 months. What kind of technology they use? How do you adapt it? Are we teaching these students to that particular technology? No, it's not only about education that has to be done within 30 years with 10,000 degrees or something like that. But here, are we able to achieve that technology and bring in the technology and the courses of that technology in our planning or architecture courses? That is a very, very great challenge, because we are still very, very, what you call, archaic in terms of the technology, in terms of giving out the new teaching methods which we can bring into the architecture. Next is in terms of language of architecture. That is something very important. It's not about language, it's about the language of architecture. No other country in this world is so rich in terms of our architectural heritage. Do we teach them? Except one discipline which we talk about, history of architecture, we don't go into details of this. If we go to, let's say, Qutub Minar, we still have that metallic things, stupa. We have not explored how to come out with that. If you go to Karnataka, there are 7 the pillars, we can give the Sattari shape, kind of a thing, sound. Okay, how do you use that metallurgy in terms of architecture? Okay, metal into architecture and stone into architecture. How do you bring this kind of thing? There is new things which comes in. What kind of new courses can come in, like what you call biomimicry, digital architecture, and then also language skills. This is very important, because most of our students, even at the bachelor's level, they are going for internship in France, in Spain, in Germany. Except for IITs, no other institutions have come out with the different parallel languages in terms of French, Spanish, and give them the credit in this discipline. So now that the NEP has given us an opportunity to bring in these kind of languages, okay, we should use them in the other thing in terms of even the credit, giving them the adequate credit for them to do this work. And I think I'll stop here, so that once we open up again, then we'll go back. Thank you very much once again to SRM for this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable insight into the aspects which probably have not been taught, and NEP gives an opportunity to think in those aspects, especially the courses. When it comes to multiple courses, it gives us an opportunity to get into the courses which have not been really thought about earlier. From here on, I would really like to thank all the panel members and all my friends, all my colleagues, distinguished guests, and everybody who are part of this panel discussion at this point. And I welcome all again to the other 2 days of the session. And I would really conclude here. Over to Esther. Esther, please.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you all the panelists, Vice Chancellor Sir, Architect Vijay Garcia Sir, and Dr. Sridharan Sir for sharing your valuable comments on the NEP 2020. So we also look forward to the session tomorrow, which will be on the Indian languages, art, culture, and heritage impact in NEP 2020. We have with us joining Dr. Nalini Thakur ma'am, Engineer Rajendran Sir, and Dr. Balaji, who are specialists in their fields of heritage and conservation. So I invite all the participants to join us same time at 3:30 tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
I would really like to apologize for question answer session being not there, but we would take the comments and we would take the questions from the participants through email or WhatsApp. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sridharan. Thank you, Professor Garg sir. Thank you, my team of Said here, Satish ji and his team. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Dr. Sancheti.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Josie. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Yeah, Dr. Nega and others. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.